Episode 25, Copyright 101.
Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast, where we cover cool stuff like photo, video, film, books, and technology. So switch on your brain and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Visionary Variety Podcast. Today is going to be an interesting episode. We're going to be talking about copyright. Now, at first, hope you didn't scan past this episode, but you might be thinking this is probably going to be a really boring, information-packed, heady kind of episode. And you're partially right, but this is some important stuff, but also we're going to make it fun. So don't worry, we've got some really interesting stories and cases and some stuff from history that we're going to talk about to explain what copyright is, why does it matter, and what you need to know about it, whether you're an artist making stuff or maybe you're just a normal average Joe consumer, whether you're paying for photography, you're buying music, you've got art, you buy movies. This is some important stuff for everyone to really be able to wrap their head around and understand. So here we go. With us today, we've got Angela Brock, the girl who's actually a sleeper agent for the Global Cat Uprising.
Hey, people.
Also, we've got Nate Gunn, the guy who knows something about nothing.
Hey.
And myself, Daniel Grove, the guy who eats podcasts for breakfast.
Oh, my.
Highly nutritious. Part of this complete breakfast.
A little intimidating.
What is the complete breakfast anyway? Why do they always say that?
Oh, man.
No one eats the complete breakfast.
No.
Let's just be honest.
Those lies from the early childhood commercials from
yeah. I think it's something the FDA made them say.
Cookie Crisp, part of a complete breakfast. All right.
That no one's going to eat. They're just going to eat the cereal. Anyway, speaking of copyright.
Segue.
That was hilarious. Our last episode with all the transitions. That was so great. I highly enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's start off with defining copyright in a general sense. And then we're going to kind of get into the details of where it came from, what it applies to, and all of those interesting stories that really help us to understand it and see some modern day cases of copyright gone right or gone wrong. So copyright is a form of property protection that covers creations and items such as music, movies, art, photograph, and other creative creations like that. Creations that an artist makes is a form of property because they made it, they own the rights to that, only they own the rights to it. And, if someone else tries to use it to make money off of it, they're breaching copyright or infringing upon copyright law. And we'll get into that later. So again, copyright is a property right, and it is under the Federal Copyright Act of 1976 that photographs are actually protected. Even if you take a photo with your phone, it doesn't matter, you don't have to be professional or not, and you don't have to be using professional equipment or not. You could take a photo with your flip phone, and you own the copyright to that photo. No one can just use that for monetary gain or other, misuse according to copyright. So that's that. Things that were created in the U.S. before 1923 are also public domain. You could use, a song that was produced, art that was produced. I don't know what the limitations are of this, if there are any, but they are not copywritten, so you can do a lot of things with them.
It'll be really interesting when stuff, like, say, past the 1930s, when more popular movies and recognizable music and such has been made. I wonder what's going to happen when all that stuff becomes public domain and how people are going to make use of it all.
Yeah, and I haven't taken time to look into that, the repercussions of when something becomes public domain, what can and can't be done. Mm-hmm. But I'd be interested in too. I'm sure there's a lot of things that that may be surprising that would be able to do or maybe not do with those movies and those pieces of art. So that's a little homework for another time.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question. Why do you see the word copyright written on websites and products? Yeah,
that is a form of protection in case a worst case scenario happens, which is that you go to court or are taken to court for something. So a good example where you see copyright written a lot is on the bottom of websites, usually on the footer of a website, sometimes in the fine print on a product, whatever. So the reason why that's there is to protect the creator of it in the case that someone uses it and tries to infringe upon their copyright. They can say, look, I posted copyright on the website, even with a year that, that this thing was created or that this website went live. That's why you see that copyright 2010 or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that's a form of protection. So again, if I take someone to court saying, hey, they made money off of my website, they stole it off of this page right here that does say copyright, that's going to help my case a lot. If I can prove that copyright was publicly presented and that I own it, they can't say, well, I didn't know. So they can't pull the ignorance card, as I call it. They can't say, well, I didn't know it was copywritten. Well, then you didn't read the website. That comes on to you. Now the ball's in your court to defend yourself. And so that's pretty much why. It's just a form of protection. I forgot to define this earlier, but one easy way to think of copyright is I kind of imagine myself like back in the 1900s where, the main form of publication and information was a book that used a copying machine to make, repeated prints of said book, page by page.
Yeah.
So let's say I write a book completely in my isolation of home. I write my own novel or my own informational, whatever, educational book, what have you, and I make it, it's all mine. No one else can say I had a part to play in that. No one else can say I deserve money from this book being, making profit. It's all mine. So I own the right to copy that book. I have the copyright. So if you kind of flip it around, it's the right to copy. Only I have the right to copy my book because it's mine. My next door neighbor can't come in and start making copies of my book and selling it from his house because it's my book. I have the copyright on it. Right. So that's kind of one way to understand that.
So what do I do if I find my work being used somewhere else without my permission?
Yeah, this happens a lot with photographers. At least in my circle of photographers, I see this happening a lot where so-and-so photographer will say, they'll have a screenshot of some random other photographer, around the country, somewhere else. They're using their photo on their front page or in their website as a promotional graphic or something. And they're like, hey, I don't know this person. They stole my photo. What do I do? So the ultimate thing you would be doing is potentially is legal action, lawyering up, as they call it, getting a lawyer that is familiar with media cases and, photography copyright and taking them to court. But that's kind of what I called earlier. That's a worst case scenario. You don't have to go legal right from the get-go. And that's actually not a good idea. It's not a good idea to do as your first course of action, especially if you're going up against a large company, because they're definitely going to have lawyers at their dispense that probably will not cost them very much, whereas it will cost you a lot to get lawyers and defend yourself. So you might end up coming out on the other end, with a negative balance. I don't know. Yeah. But what you want to do first is you want to contact that person and be civil and polite and also very professional about it. You could say, hey, I noticed one of my photographs was on your website, or I noticed one of my photos was on your pamphlet. I haven't issued permission to use my work. And I'd like to know what we can do to work this out. So in the times where you can actually make a case for you losing out on money because someone has stolen your work, you can actually send them a bill. And I hear this as a very common course of action when someone uses your photos on their website. It's just send them an invoice.
That's so funny.
Say,
that's cool.
I noticed you used my work and I'm very flattered, but that'll be $500 as I see you've been using it since X months, if you can prove that, or just say that'll be $500 for the continued use of my photograph. If you fail to respond, this will be added, or you can say you can take it down, but you'll still owe me $250 or $1,000, whatever you feel is, realistic and professional to charge. Because look at it this way, they've been benefiting from your hard work.
Yeah.
They could have easily booked gigs off of your photo. And that's great for them, but you have nothing to show for it, nor did you get any thank you in the form of dollar bills for them using your amazing photo to make them look better. And that's copyright infringement 101. They're taking your photo without your permission, and they're making money off it, which is really why we don't want things to infringe upon copyright, is because other people will benefit from other people's work. So doubly not cool.
Yeah, sadly, this happens a lot in like the art field too. I've seen numerous cases of popular artists that I follow. Some random Facebook page would take some of their artwork and decide to put it on like mugs or shirts and sell it in their online shop as if they created everything. So it's a huge shame. It happens all the time. And sadly, this happens a lot at artist alleys, at conventions a lot too, where you see artist booths and they're selling artwork and masquerading as if they're the artist, but they've just taken other artists' artwork from online and made prints of it, or they've even taken licensed artwork and maybe tweaked it a little bit and put it out there for sale. That happens. I feel like this happens at almost every major convention.
Probably, yeah. We just don't know.
Right. And there's one instance that I've read up on recently that happened, I believe, earlier this year at a convention called ACON, and it's in Fort Worth, Texas. I think it's an anime-related convention.
Texas. Yeah.
There was this one vendor booth that was selling a lot of different prints from tons of different artists. There's so many different art styles, like that's not made by the same person.
Yeah, that's a fierce red flag.
Exactly. And then there's phone cases that just look like licensed artwork from different anime, pillows with artwork on it. Wow. A lot of different things. And this is in the artist alley. Like, you normally see this kind of stuff maybe at the vendor hall, where actual companies who have the right to sell licensed work Yeah, it wasn't the artist alley. So big red flag.
Shady.
I know the convention had numerous artists and patrons going to the staff and explaining the case, saying, "Hey, we've contacted artists who we recognize their work from, and they say, yeah, this is not my artwork." And there's even numerous rules in their own like convention artist alley rules that say you can't allow this kind of artwork and merchandise to be sold in the artist alley. So they were getting complaints all weekend, but yet that booth stayed there the entire weekend. They really did nothing about it.
That's bad management.
I know. They had staff members go up to whoever was running the booth and interview him a bit, but ultimately they did nothing. So
that's not good.
I know.
Yeah. So that does happen a lot. I know of a similar instance where the person was actually banned from all of the affiliated cons, and probably local cons also picked up on that and banned him from their cons, I hope, because it was discovered that he was selling other artists' art from online as his own.
I feel like in the majority of cases where this kind of stuff is pointed out to convention staff, that they usually take care of it pretty well for the most part. They make sure they're banned and all that jazz. But to see that at a big convention like this would do nothing, it's awful to see.
That's unfortunate. Maybe the manager thought he was just too busy with bigger stuff, bigger fish to fry, and then to kick this guy out or whatever.
It's awful.
Now, you mentioned earlier the vendor hall, where companies will come in, have a booth where you can come and you can buy products that are actually from different franchises and different companies that are legal. Now, how is that not copyright infringement? That would be because that company who's making mugs or phone cases or wall art or whatever it is, or wristbands, they're selling things because they have the licenses from the original creators to make those products with their art on it.
Yeah.
So I could, if I had enough money to spend, I could pay Disney. I could buy the licensing to make Star Wars products. And then I could in turn, even though I may have spent $10,000 to get those rights, I could make that back if I sold those products, and therefore I have profit. Yeah. That's kind of the idea behind this whole licensing business, is that someone with great art or a good franchise or a good name or brand on it will have lots of people coming to them saying, "Hey, we want to make money off of your stuff. How much?" And, they say, "Okay, well, give me $1,000 a pop for each thing." And boom, you can do whatever you want with it now. Yeah. Of course, there's probably a contract which very strictly outlines what they can and can't do with it.
What about like photo and video licensing? Like, how does that all work?
Yeah, so there's a bunch of popular websites right now. iStock Photo is probably one of the biggest for stock photography, and you can pay to use the photo.
Yeah, or you get a nasty iStock thingy on it.
Lovely watermark all over it. Yeah, so now I'm not personally familiar with that website, and I don't actually pay for any stock licensing, kind of memberships for anywhere, because I don't do that. But I'm assuming there's either one or two options. You pay the website for a membership monthly. You might pay $10 or $50 per month to be a member. And at that point, you can use any or select items on their website for your business. You can use it for profit. You can edit it. You can alter it. You can do whatever you want with it. Another case, which might be more popular, is you're actually a member of the website and you pay per item. So I know on iStock Photo, some of them are like $10 for the photo. And then boom, you can use it in your sermon series. You can use it on your website. You could use it as a promotional graphic on Facebook, whatever. And you're not infringing upon copyright, because the deal is you pay for the licensing of that picture. And even though licensing might be $1 to $10, you're still legally paying for what the website demands. So you're good. And the same goes for stock video. And there's even stock sound websites where you can buy intros and outros and, they call them bumper music. I happen to be a super nerd that makes electronica, so I make my own. So, woo, saved money there. But for those who do not know how to produce music, you can pay any amount of money to get some quality of song for your podcast or your whatever, your video. You can buy background music for videos. Nate, you make wedding videos, and you have to purchase music for your videos, right?
I know, like if you put your content on YouTube or Vimeo or anywhere like that, you will get red flagged. So I guess that's where the instant of like doing a highlight video for music that you purchase from like MusicBed or Epidemic Music. But other than that, as if it's like a gift to the client, hey, it's the ball's in their court, and if they get red flagged, then I could be like, well, I told you in the contract and I told you in person that you won't be able to post this anywhere. And if you make duplicates and they find out, I've told you. And if you want this to be fixed, we can make a highlight. And that's another conversation we can have with royalty-free music or music that they're willing to buy.
Yeah, you can buy a 3.5 minute, instrumental, pretty acoustic guitar song and slap it in your highlight video, and you're safe. They're safe to share it. It's all good. Now, you're talking about videos, and that reminded me, I have a YouTube channel. If you look up Daniel Grove Photo on YouTube, you'll find me. I do edit videos. I do some tutorials, some speed edits, and things like that. And what I do for my music is I'll look up in YouTube, I'll look up royalty-free electronic music or some kind of genre that I want, royalty-free dubstep, royalty-free trance, whatever I'm looking for or feeling. I get that, and I download it, and I read the details on the description. And a lot of times they'll say, no need for credit, or what do they say? Credit not required. And you can pretty much use the song without paying any licensing, without infringing on any copyright, because the artist who made it posted it, and they're saying, "Hey, have fun with my song."
Yeah.
Now, sometimes they'll have other details, like, all I ask is that you link me back to the video that you make with my song, because they just want to see it, and that's a cool feeling, seeing your song in someone else's video. Other times they'll say, just put my credit in your description, and I'm good. So you do need to read the agreement or the details of the use of this thing to make sure you're not stepping on anyone's foot or ripping off anything that you shouldn't be ripping off. So I use royalty-free music for my YouTube videos. When I first started my YouTube, I actually wrote a group or a producer, I'm not sure what it is, but they're named Dance with the Dead. And it sounds really dark and gruesome, but they make some awesome electronic music. You should definitely go listen to them because they're really, really energy-filled and awesome electric music. So I wrote them. I said, hey, I'm a photographer. I do special effects, really cool nerdy stuff and sci-fi work. I would love to know if I can get your permission to use your music in my videos. Because if I upload it with their track, YouTube's algorithm, and same with Facebook and Instagram, it'll detect like a copywritten song, and it'll say, nope, you can't upload that because you don't have the rights to. So I wanted to get their permission and then see what I could do with that. So I did upload a video with their song, and it got flagged, and I actually argued against it. I fought back, and I said, no, I do have the rights for this song. And now they didn't ever check on that. They didn't check to confirm that. But if they did, then I could show proof. I could show them a screenshot of the conversation I had with the artist himself from the official YouTube channel that they said, yes, you may use our songs as long as your videos are not monetized, which they're not. That was kind of cool. I felt like super special hearing back from an actual artist that I like. You don't get that very much. That is very rare. And a lot of times if they're more popular and making a lot of money, their producers tell them that they cannot say yes.
Right.
But I guess in this case, these guys had the freedom to say yes to me, and because I'm not making money off it, it's just no loss for them. So that was really cool.
Yeah. I mean, what's the harm in asking? What's the worst thing to say is no?
Yes. Send messages to all artists you like, big and small, and maybe one of them will write back. So that kind of talks about licensing of other people's work. There are legal ways to use copywritten work as long as you're paying the licensing fee and you're abiding by the terms and agreements of that license. Another thing is you can actually transfer the copyright of a work to somebody else. So in this case, this happens actually quite a bit in the photography world within corporate photography. So let's say Toyota contacts me. You're like, hey, Daniel Grove, we like your style. We like your lighting. We like the consistent work that you do. You're just all around a really cool guy. And we want to hire you to do photos of our next vehicle coming out. So I charge them $5,000
Oh my gosh.
just to start off with,
Nice.
chump change for them. And basically they want all the photos that I take of their new vehicle, but they want full copyright because they want to edit them. They want to use them in all their commercials and printouts and whatever stuff that they do local and nationally. But they're going to need copyright for that. They can't do that if I don't give it to them, but they want to purchase my copyright of these images. They can do that no problem. Now I'm going to bump up the price a lot because what does this mean for me? This means I cannot use those photos after that point. It's all theirs.
Right.
It's all theirs after that point. When I give them the copyright, they could sue me if I use the images because they have the copyright because I sold it to them. So that's why I would pump up the price because I can no longer make any profit. I can't even brag about the photos and post them because they're not mine anymore. I can't use them in my portfolio. Can't put them on Facebook and say, look at this cool shoot I did. It's all theirs. And so I'm going to definitely be paid, compensated for that. I love using the work in my portfolio to show off what I've done and to, just kind of get attention online. But if I'm not allowed to do that, then I'm losing value in that shoot and I'm going to charge more.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if a bigger company takes your work and does not accredit the creator?
Yeah, that's kind of a scary situation, quite honestly, because it seems like unless you're able to afford some really top tier lawyers, a lot of times there's not a whole lot you can do unless you get lucky. Like, take this example that's pretty well known, I think, on the internet and artist circles. A few years ago, there was an illustration student named Katie Woodgir, and she's from England. Now, she posted a pretty well-known Alice in Wonderland art piece on the internet. It's basically Alice with her back turned towards the viewer, and she's in the looking glass, and she's painting roses red, I believe. So Disney goes and takes this image, changes the colors to like a monochromatic scheme, and basically displays it on makeup canvas bags and mass produce them. Yeah, it's really not cool. Of course, they did not accredit the artist, did not let her know about this in any way. She had to let followers know that, hey, Disney's making these products with your image on it.
Boycott Disney.
I know. So, of course, I think Disney received a lot of hate messages from from the fans of this illustrator. And I believe that she contacted Disney herself to ask if they could pull the product or give her royalties or something. But as far as I'm aware, she did not get any response back, or at least not a positive response. And I don't think she took any legal action because it's Disney. They have, I'm sure, some really top tier copyright lawyers on their side. And yeah, I think you would just go broke trying to fight back.
Yeah, totally. Sometimes the cards are stacked very much against small artists when it's the case of a big company using their work, because they can afford stuff, and a lot of times artists can't afford. I mean, I don't have $80,000 under my bed for use of legal fees.
Yeah.
And that's what it might cost me to do a big case against someone if they use my stuff. And even if I'm in the right, it could still cost me a lot of money. And that's really unfair, but that's just how it works.
I know. It's so lame because most of the time for these artists, it's just not worth it to pursue legal action, especially against companies. So it's just like, what can you do?
There's a recent case that happened with a photographer couple. It's Toni and Chelsea Northrup. They are photographers that don't just they don't just do photography, but they actually teach. They have like books and material and curriculums published about Lightroom and I'm guessing Photoshop and other things regarding, modern photography business. Yeah. And one of their photos got used by a company in Australia, and the wife, Chelsea Northrup, her face, her beautiful portrait, which was used for a Lightroom lesson, like cover. I don't know if it's an actual book or there's a digital like artwork for a lesson that is sold. Her photo got used on an iPhone case.
Oh, no.
Sold and produced in Australia.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it's so weird. And they tried not to do the legal stuff first. They just wrote the company politely and said, hey, we noticed you used our photo on your phone case, and we didn't know about this. We also didn't get paid or never contacted about the rights and licensing of this images. How can we work this out? And I think pretty quickly the iPhone case company responded with lawyers.
Wow.
Just without any, nice professional conversation, just boom, lawsuit stuff happening.
That's
right then and there. Yeah. And the company, if I remember right, claimed or feigned ignorance, saying, well, the graphic artists that they, paid to make the iPhone case, they're the ones who used the image, and they didn't know that the image was copywritten, that the company didn't, so they okayed it and they produced them. And so then the stuff shifts down the line to the graphic artist who made these things. And they weren't responding and then instantly responded, or at first they didn't respond for a while, and then they finally did, but with lawyers right out of the gate. So it wasn't a great situation. All that to say, they asked for, I think it was $46,000 because of, the use of this image repeatedly for X amount of over a year, I think, for making these cases. Yeah. And they ended up only getting it was $6,000 out of that because of what they had to pay the lawyers.
It's so frustrating to hear.
Yeah, it's just so wrong. It's like, if you are running any kind of graphic company that uses pictures, if you use any digital pictures, you need to understand this stuff, people. Come on.
Yeah. Just be original. Choose your own stuff, sad. Man.
Or at least pay for stock images or something,
Yeah, it's really sad when either someone just is totally ignorant of copyright. They think if the picture is visible on Facebook or Google Images that they can save it and use it. That's bad, but it's also bad when the company knows that, but they're too lazy to hire a photographer. Just pay a photographer a few $100 or whatever they ask to make good images. You can use them for the rest of your life and make money off of them if you pay them.
I mean, shoot, it's as easy as you can make a payment plan with a photographer.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are other situations where maybe the photographer gets 10% of the sales.
Exactly.
You don't just have to have a one-time payment and then this person becomes a millionaire off of your picture.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of agreements that you can set up, and as long as both companies agree to it and it is in a clear, defined contract, printed and signed, got to have that. Then you're good. You need to outline everything that is being agreed upon by both parties in a contract. In my wedding contracts, one of the first things we talk about is copyright, which I basically have to explain to them because Joe Schmo doesn't know what copyright is, or they think that because they're paying me as their wedding photographer, that they own the images after that point and can do whatever they want with them.
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
Right.
Not with this photographer, at least. So I actually outline, I say, I own your images. If I want to be technical, they're actually not your images. They may be images of you, but they are my images. I still own them. I have the copyright to them, and you can only do with them what I allow you to do in this contract.
Like a shameless plug to our previous episode when you had the standalone where you do the Q&A for photography. What if somebody wants you to be their photographer, but they don't want you to edit and they want the raws, but they're yours, but they want to edit them?
Yeah, I would only agree to that if I know that they're a good editor. And if I know where these images are going to go, because if I don't know those two things, then they may just butcher my images and post them all over Facebook. And then when people start asking, wow, what a great photo, even though they're wrong, what a great photo.
Even though they're wrong.
Who took these photos? Yeah, and they're like, oh, Daniel Grove Photography. And then boom, my name's attached to this blue cast looking crappy, unsharpened, unedited photo. So I don't want my name or brand or reputation attached to bad images. I only want them attached to good images. And how do I get those? I edit them myself. So back to my wedding contract is after explaining to them what copyright is and the fact that I own these images, I can literally do whatever I want with them. I could sell them. I could put them on a stock site, which would be weird.
Make their head really big.
No, you could do that. That'd be awesome.
I can make money off of your pictures. I can, though, because I own the copyright. And if they don't agree to that, then they're not going to sign the contract with me. But that hasn't happened yet. And also, I don't sell wedding photos on stock sites. So I tell them that too. I said I could, but I don't.
I think you should. I think that's another industry you should get into, is stock photo.
Not wedding, of course, but like nature stuff.
Yeah, not wedding, and not like trademarked characters either. I probably get in
that
trouble
would be
for
bad.
But, I did have a lawyer contact me one time. He didn't write me in a, like there was a lawsuit on, but he said, hey, I am a mutual friend. I'm also a lawyer that deals with this kind of stuff a lot. And I just wanted to let you know about something. He said, he was basically warning me. He's like, you want to be careful with your Star Wars photography. You probably shouldn't be marketing that you are a Star Wars photographer. I was like, oh, I don't do that at all. Like, people see that I've done it and they come to me and they ask me, can you do Star Wars at my wedding? Or can you do my little girl Star Wars photos? I'm like, totally, yeah. But I don't go claiming this or
I'm the guy
selling,
that does the Star Wars photos.
Yeah.
No. I do cosplay fan stuff.
So here's a cool tool that I found recently, and this is very useful for graphic artists as well as photographers, and I guess even artists too, like you, Angela. You can actually use this website. It's called pixly.com, Pixly.com. To reverse image search your images on the interwebs. Ooh. So basically what this does is you upload your photos, and I uploaded 500 photos to Pixly, and it searches, I'm guessing all of public internet for my images, and it found all the places that my images are found.
That's handy.
Yeah, it's really cool. And Google has had this for a long time. It's called reverse image search. You can drag an image file into the search bar, and it will look for your image. Instead of searching for text, it searches for your image. Really cool.
Nice.
And this is great because a lot of photographers use this service to find, copyright infringement and then pursue it legally. And this website specifically basically splits it half and half. So if you win the case, they get half and you get half. Now, I don't know how fair that is. I have never used that, probably won't. But it was interesting seeing all the places where some of my most popular photos have ended up. And thankfully, there was no copyright infringement, just a lot of sharing. So I found websites that kind of post popular shoots or popular viral posts on social media. They kind of gathered into one website category.
Yeah.
So I found some of my Star Wars shoots and some of my cosplay shoots that did really well listed on those websites. And I was okay with that because they were linking back to my work. I saw my name on them. And for you photographers out there, this is why it's important to have a watermark or your logo on your image in a place that's not super easy to just crop out.
Yeah.
You don't want to have your logo as just one horizontal line along the bottom of your photo.
Right.
Because guess what? 1 second of cropping in Photoshop, boom, it's gone.
Yeah.
You want to have a slightly larger, a detailed logo that can't just be cloned out, that it would probably just ruin the image below it if you try to Photoshop it out. You want to put it in an area of the photo that can't be easily removed or cloned or heel brushed out.
Yeah.
And just think about that. You want your name to stick on your image. If someone just grabs your image and runs all around the globe with it online and posting it here and claiming, oh, I'm selling this, I own this, can they with a logo on it? No, they're not going to get very far because there's a connection back to me. So that's where watermarking is highly valuable. And I'm actually starting to do more watermarking on my stuff now that I'm getting more well known and my stuff's getting shared a lot more. I don't care where it goes as long as I know my logo's still on it. And my website.
Right.
And actually, this has been a point of contention within myself because I am weird about committing to something long term as far as what's going to represent my brand. Because if you know anything about my photography, you know that I do pretty much everything. Everything that includes people wearing clothes, I do that kind of photography. I don't do I don't do sexy, risque stuff. I do family friendly photography, but I do pretty much all those categories within that. And picking one logo that represent all of my different styles is really difficult for me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have different logos for different categories of photography. And I don't want to have to mess with remembering which logos for which.
Right.
So it's been really hard for me to come up with something or find something that I can use and that applies to all of my work. So I kind of default by just using my website as a logo.
That works.
It's not really a logo. But yeah, just putting Daniel Grow photo on it, somewhere nice and clear with a nice font and that it's readable.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that more now because I'm realizing, wow, photography theft is very, very prevalent. And especially with something as niche as cosplay photography, my stuff is probably going to be bouncing around a lot in the next few years. And I want to prevent that or at least keep it connected to me.
Right. That's smart.
So I don't go to a con one time and I see a big old T-shirt with my image on it.
That would be the worst. Kind of cool,
I'll
but
walk
the
and be
worst.
like, hey, I'll take $5 per shirt that you sell. Thanks. I did that photo. So now regarding using someone else's work, remember, I don't want you to think that I'm just talking about photography. I'm talking about all kinds of created things. It could even be a product, or a brand or something like that. So regarding using copywritten items, there is sort of, I don't want to call it a loophole, but it is sort of a way through it, not around it. And it's called a fair use. So I could use, in some cases, copywritten things under the fair use clause and not be infringing upon the copyright of that item. Now, there are a lot of fine details and situations and there's a lot to know about fair use. And unfortunately, we really do not have time to cover that in this one single episode. That would be worthy of its own episode, at least one. So we do not have time to cover fair use, but maybe in the future. But if you are interested in understanding what that is, and if you're worried about the fact that you may be infringing on copyright, definitely check out fair use to see if you fit into that or if you need to stop infringing upon someone's copyright. Please don't do that. Don't be that guy. So there's that. But I think that just about sums up this episode, a quick and kind of the aerial view of copyright and infringement and licensing. If we got anything wrong, which, I'm pretty sure we could have, write us. Let us know what we were wrong in and let us know what you thought about this episode. If you learned anything new, if we just basically incriminated you and you're going to prison, let us know too. We'll write you letters in prison.
We will.
And if you're local, we'll come visit you on the other side of a telephone.
We'll come visit you. We'll send you cassette tapes of our podcast into your prison cell.
Oh my goodness.
I'm still working on the cassette tape avenue of our podcast marketing.
Oh my gosh.
It's coming along real slow. Well, on that note, thanks for listening to this episode. We appreciate hearing back from you guys. You can write us anytime at tvvpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and Twitter. So write us, find us, follow us, like us, subscribe, register, send us money. I mean, whatever. So
no exposure bucks.
Yeah, exposure. Yeah, pay us with exposure bucks only, please.
Oh my gosh.
Don't infringe upon our copyright. Thanks. And we thank you for listening to this episode. We will see you next week. Have a good one.
Yeah, same reason why sometimes you see on TV shows where they interview people out on the street, sometimes they have to blur out logos and name brands on people's shirts. When I was a kid, I used to think, man, that person must have something really dirty written on their shirt for them to blur it out.
You thought like the worst case scenario?
Yeah.
That's funny.
As a kid, you don't think they're just blurring a name brand. Like,
That's funny.
what does it say on their shirt? Sheesh.